to the small screen where two 20-somethings with too much free time tell you what to watch to keep boredom at bay and to avoid the void that is our current reality. I'm Nell.
And I'm Rosie. This week, we're going to be challenging each other who could have found the worst TV show or the most trash TV show. We'll let you decide who wins. But first, the headlines.
The Golden Globe winners were announced in a socially distanced, Zoom-friendly ceremony. In an entirely unsurprising turn, every prediction that we made came true. That's what you come here for, startlingly accurate and impeccable discourse. If you want to hear our 100% reliable takes, go listen to our episodes where we discuss the Golden Globe noms. And please note that terms and conditions apply and the results of listening to Avoiding the Void may vary.
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy was convicted of 3 years in prison today for corruption after he attempted to bribe a judge in 2014. 2 of the 3 years were struck off, and he gets to spend the 1 year in prison, quote unquote, under house arrest in his wife Carla Bruni's luxury mansion. The French really need to get back to their roots with this one. Vive la révolution!
Lady Gaga's dogs were dog-napped in a very bizarre story that had Twitter frantic and confused. Every article seemed to lead with the fact that the dogs were missing, and not with the fact that the person who was walking them got shot. Thankfully, all are either on the mend or returned home. For more hijinks involving canines, we recommend the 2001 seminal classic Cats and Dogs. And those are the headlines.
What a film, Cats and Dogs.
What a throwback. I haven't thought about that film in so many years.
How did they do that? The
I
CGI, incredible. I really thought them cats and dogs were solving them crimes.
Mm-hmm. Timeless, some would say.
Absolute timeless. Now, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What's new this week?
Oh, let me tell you what's new this week. Amazon Prime, Daniel Radcliffe is back on screen in a film called Escape from Pretoria, which is described as a tense race against time thriller. As a political prisoner plans to escape from the world's toughest maximum security prison, and it's based on a true story.
Wow.
I've seen the trailer, looks really, as it says, tense. Where
is Pretoria?
I think South Africa.
It sounds South Africa, I was going to ask.
And then also based on the accents. I'm going to say South Africa. And the reason that they called Daniel Radcliffe's character the White Mandela, I'm going to say South Africa.
You did that in the completely wrong order. Completely wrong order. You should have said White Mandela in the accents, then because you think Pretoria's in South Africa. We move.
Yeah, so that looks fun and dark. Then also on Amazon Prime, the 1994 Little Women is on Amazon Prime.
Amazing.
Chef's kiss. If you've never seen it, probably one of the best adaptations of Little Women. I know we all stand 2019, but 1994 is going to be where it's at.
Yeah.
Then I saw this one and I said this is one for Rosie because it's got Tom Hardy in it. On Netflix, Capone. Tom Hardy plays Al Capone. The film centers on Capone after his 11-year sentence at Atlanta Penitentiary as he suffers from neurosyphilis and dementia while living in Florida, to which I then thought maybe it isn't for Rosie.
When I first saw the premise of this, I thought Tom Hardy playing Al Capone in the 1920s, gangster, cool,
yeah.
Gruff, like
really up your, yeah.
But no, man slowly declining senility after prison sentence. Not for me, really.
No.
I'm sure Tom Hardy's great in it, but
it is an 18, I did see, so I'm intrigued. I'm sure there's going to be violence.
I mean, he did be murdering people.
Exactly.
So
Maybe gore. I don't know what's made it an 18, but I'm going to watch it and find out. And then also, I I want to know if this is what you're is this what you're going to be talking about? Did it come out recently?
It did.
Is it Ginny and Georgia?
No.
Oh my
I
god.
was tempted.
Okay. But that is another potential trash TV show,
Yeah.
Ginny and Georgia season 1 on Netflix.
I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
It's been described as Gilmore Girls meets Desperate Housewives.
Okay.
And it looks trash and is getting absolutely roasted on Twitter.
I see Taylor Swift weighed in because the writers wrote in some line about Taylor Swift going through men very quickly, and she didn't let it slide.
Yeah, I've seen like a couple of clips of a couple of scenes where it's like it's very obviously like millennials trying to write Gen Z, which kind of almost to me feels in the same vibe of like when Gilmore Girls was out. It's like an older generation trying to write teenage, that kind of like disconnect.
You can just smell it, can't you? It's like Riverdale. You can just tell the people who are writing this aren't actually 17 years old.
Yeah, but I do have a friend who watched it and said it's like kind of weird, tonally all over the place. Has like a mystery element, and is kind of fun and stupid. So I might genuinely give it a go, because
you might dabble.
Yeah, because I always need more trash. Speaking of,
I think I'm gonna go first because I think yours is gonna be more trash than mine. This week, I watched what I'm sure everyone has seen every time they've opened Netflix for the past couple of weeks. Behind Her Eyes.
Oh,
I watched it. Yes, I did. I watched
Tell me about it.
Okay, so I'm going to take you through the journey of Behind Her Eyes for me. We've all seen the trailer. It's some kind of like psychological thriller. That is what you think. You see there's a married couple, the woman, the wife, black cropped bob, chopping board, plain white clothes, very scary, Rosamund Pike and Gone Girl. Those are the vibes. The husband, lovely, warm man, has an affair with a woman. The woman somehow gets entangled into their lives. I had like Cruel Intentions kind of vibes, like Vicky Cristina Barcelona. There was those kind of, strange kind of weird psycho vibes. There's magic in it.
No, Rosie, no.
So right, this it's really bad. So you do, for the first 5 episodes of the
how long is it?
6 episodes. Each episode's an hour long. For the first majority of the first 5 episodes, it is a psycho thriller. This woman, her name is Louise. She has an affair with her boss, David, who's married to Adele. Adele befriends Louise, sucks into her life, plays mind games with all of them. Adele, very scary bitch. Like, very no blinking, staring to camera, lots of knives, stalks people, the like. Towards the end of the 5th episode, we found out a bit about Adele, the wife's backstory. We've always found out she was in a psych ward. Her parents died in a fire in her house, and she goes into this psych ward and she meets this very lovable Scottish heroin addict called Rob. They made him Scottish. It was almost like they plucked Ewan McGregor right out of Trainspotting. It was incredible. And Adele, the wife, who's very sweet and young in these flashbacks, befriends Rob, and they become fast friends and they bond and they become really good friends. And then Adele finds out about astral projection. No, we find out, and this is deep into the TV series, and I mean deep.
No.
And we find out that Adele and Rob can make their souls, their consciousness, leave their bodies in glowy glowy ribbons that float out of their bodies and then can look around and travel around and go into other rooms. And it ooh, and then we find these out. We just find this out, and they do it together, and they have fun, and they're in the forest, and they're like, "Wow!" And then okay, and then throughout all this, Adele teaches Louise how to do this as well. The woman, the young black woman that David's having an affair with, teaches him to do this as well. And we're like, whoa, this is crazy. This makes no fucking sense. We never get told how they do this. Like it's all like vague explanations, and it just doesn't make sense. And you're like, why have they done this? Why are they telling me this? The final episode. So we've got 4 main characters. The main ones being Rob, the heroin addict, Ewan McGregor, as I will call him. The Adele, the creepy wife, Louise, the affair, and the husband. We find out in the final episode that Adele is controlling David because they killed Rob in the forest in a flashback. They killed him and they chucked him in a well in Scotland. They chucked poor Ewan McGregor in a well when he was on heroin. It was terrible. And that's what Adele's power over David is. That's why he just can't leave her and go live with Louise and be in love. It's so complicated. I feel like I'm making it. This is what I was feeling when I was watching. I was like, this is so. I just wanted to sob.
I love a TV show that makes you just put your head in your hands.
Yeah.
Like, what have I done? Why have I spent time on this?
Okay, so we find that out in the last episode. Okay, that's what we find out. That this is what Adele, the creepy wife, is holding over David so that he can't leave her. And he can't leave her, otherwise she'll tell the police and she'll frame him. And then throughout all this, David's like, Adele always knows things, because her soul is leaving her body and spying on him. I'm not kidding. That's literally what happens.
I'm crying.
And then it transpires that David decides to be with Louise and finally leave Adele, and Louise is like, yes, I can have my mans, I love him, blah blah blah. But then Louise falls for the oldest trick in the book. She calls Adele and she says to her, you're never gonna have him. Here's our entire plan to frame you for Rob's murder. I'm gonna tell you on the phone and I'm gonna reveal it all. You can't do anything about it. Because that's the smart thing to do in this situation. Adele.
I just need you to know that in my head, when Adele projects herself, she like stands with her arms open and like eyes roll back up into her head like Bran in Game of Thrones, and like in anime style, like shoots out of her.
No. I wish it were that. It really, all she does, they just lie down and do this, and then this like really bright, kind of faint, glowy, it looks like shit, like this stick just rises out and it goes bloop 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 bloop, and Adele's is blue. And then other people's are other colors, because differentiation.
At what point in season 2 are they just going to find out that that's what everyone does when they zone out? Like in quarantine, we all just lay back on the bed and pretend to astral project our souls across the room. Wow. Yeah,
there's no explanation to it. Okay, so the last episode, Louise has the mistress has said, we're going to take you down, evil wife, we're going to take you down, and this is exactly how we're going to do it, step by step, and you can't stop us. Adele in her house then sets the house on fire, gets high on heroin, injects it into her toes, lies back, calls Louise and says, I'm going to kill myself and it's all your fault, and texts her that so that the police can see it and that it's her fault, so she's going to kill herself. And Louise, instead of going to the police instead of going to the fire department, goes to Adele's house, sees there's a fire. No one else in the neighborhood seems to notice that the house is on fire. And then sits down outside the door because she can't get in. She bangs, she can't get in. She can't get in. And Adele is in the house off her face on heroin. and then she's sitting on the door. She's curled up on the steps. She's like, you know what I'll do? I'll astral project into the house and save her that way. So Louise, floaty thing, goes into the house and looks at Adele. And then Adele's soul comes out of her body and then goes down the stairs.
Oh no.
And goes into Louise's body, and then Louise's soul goes into Adele's body, and they swap. And Adele has effectively hijacked Louise's life. And then Adele, who is actually Louise, is on heroin. She's not used to the heroin. She's not a heroin addict because apparently the soul gets addicted to heroin, not the body. We must remember that.
Right.
Because when Louise in Adele's body wakes up, she can't move. She's like, I'm not used to all this bloody heroin. I can't move. So she dies in the fire. And Louise, who is Adele, comes in and says, haha, I got you. Now I have your life and I have David. No one will take him from me. You think that's the end? You think?
You think? But no.
Remember Ewan McGregor?
I do.
Remember him?
Oh no.
We told you he's a heroin addict. He's also gay or bisexual. He likes men. We learn in the last episode he is gradually becoming obsessed with David, Adele's husband.
Right.
And we see in one of the final scenes of the show, that night that Adele presumably killed Ewan McGregor, they astral projected and swapped. So Adele has been Ewan McGregor the whole time. The whole time. And then
this is a
now,
body swap comedy.
now Ewan McGregor is in Louise, and the last scene, they get married, her and David, and they drive off into the sunset. But Louise, throughout this, has a son, and the poor son is sat in the back, knowing that that's not his bloody mum, knowing she's acting real weird, and yeah. And Ewan McGregor wins. And it was actually Adele who was murdered and thrown in that but well all those years ago.
So all it takes for the gays to survive is for them to astral project into a straight couple.
Yeah, that's all it really takes.
Right,
so if you really want a man, you learn how to astral project and you take the life of his girl. You do that and you become a sword of light. There's been the amount what kind of psychological thriller TV show introduces magic in the second to last episode and just goes, yeah.
Was there not any clues at
there
all?
Was.
Like looking back.
But they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's always like Adele knows things.
Yeah.
And then it's just
in your head that means she's just got like some spy shit.
Yeah,
she's
in your head
the place.
And then the first few episodes are really weird tonally as well because it's like a rom-com at the beginning. It's like Louise and David like, hey,
it's a body swap comedy.
I love it. And then and all that booky crap went down at the end. So
that's honestly incredible.
Yeah, and I've just read a review just there in the Independent, and everyone's talking about how it's like very strange that like a white man is now possessing a black woman's body, and it's all very like Get Out vibes now. And it's also like the predatory gay man gets thrown in there, and the writers don't really do jack shit with that, and messy and long. I mean 6 hours.
I mean,
just to learn that Ewan McGregor is inside.
Feels like a lot of unnecessary build up to the finale of you only find out in the finale that the answer's magic. And then
you do know there's magic, but the answer, yes, is magic.
Yeah, and then even among that, they have a world where this magic is established. Yet in their con, Adele's not very smart, is she? That she has to be told the plan. Why is she not just sneakily listening in on the plan? Is that not a better plot?
Louise calls her up and says, "We've got you now, Adele. David's on his way to Scotland to get the body."
That just seems like a bonkers. That seems completely bonkers,
I think
given
what you're
the
looking
whole
for is
thing.
lazy.
Yeah, the whole thing is that you've set up a plot device, which means this woman can spy on everything that
Oh
you're
no, but they
doing.
clarify. I think they clarify. Your soul can only go to places you've been before, obviously,
Right.
because otherwise, how would it know its way there? It doesn't have Google Maps.
But how did they know that?
Because exactly.
How would they who are hatching the plan know that?
Passed down through generations, I presume. I don't know. I think from what I remember, I was zoned out for a lot of this TV show.
You were trying to astral project yourself.
I was like throughout. Like so I think she read about it in a book.
Right.
She might have been taught it. It's blurry. It doesn't fundamentally matter at the end of the day because you still don't bloody know what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's lots of funny memes on
Twitter.
I
can imagine.
There's lots of funny memes on Twitter being like, lots of the black community has come out in full force on Twitter. Go have a look, being like, how the hell does this Scottish heroin addict know how to style her 4C hair? Like,
oh my god.
And yeah, some funny ones, but yeah, so that's what I watched.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
I'd honestly recommend, because this is the only time I paid for it, and I got my flatmates in to watch it with me. Just watch the last episode. You understand.
You don't need any.
You don't need any more than that. No. The whole first major episodes are just, oh, she's a scary lady. How does she know all this?
Mm-hmm.
And Louise, bless her, the mistress, she's dumb as pig poo. She is so stupid. So much would have not happened. Like classic protagonist in a rubbish kind of horror flick.
Yeah.
So much would have not happened the way it did if she was just went through the proper channels.
Yeah.
Call the fire department. Astral project to do what? Like, that's the thing. It's like Louise, when she was sat outside and she knew Adele was inside about to get burnt to death, she was like, I'll astral project into the house.
What?
To do what? Have a look around.
Just watch. Just get a better view in the corner.
Isn't it? There's a meme of that. See that meme of the guy sitting on the top of his door just chilling? On the top of his door frame, just that's the whole show. And it's just so many plot holes, just a bit silly, really. But yeah, no, it's not a psychological thriller, it's magic. And usually I'm buzzing for some magic, but this
wow.
Yeah, so there you go, that's Behind Her Eyes 2021.
Wow.
Can you top it now?
No, I can't top that. I can't. That's definitely worse than mine.
Please watch. I want you to watch the last.
I'm gonna watch.
Go watch the last episode. See what I mean.
I will. My choice was like, because I was like, I know our niche of like, we love a historical drama.
We do. And
I had heard of this historical drama on Netflix that came out a while ago, but that on Tumblr, people who I follow were popping off about because they're like, this is so goddamn bad. And I was like, I need to save this for the right time. And this week was the right time. And it's called The Last Tsars. and it's about the Romanovs.
I think I watched something.
My God, the journey I went. What an absolutely crap batshit program. Where to start? I mean, first of all, it, a good way to start maybe was with the Guardian review of it, which is called it the historical drama that the whole of Russia is laughing at. And it just absolutely rinses it, because it is English, so everyone's English speaking in it.
With Russian accents?
No.
Oh, good.
With English accents.
Okay.
Until I have a point to make about this, because what they do with the accents is awful. It's half, well, about 70% drama and 30% documentary. So there'll be drama scenes, and then so out of nowhere they'll have a talking head from a historian explaining what's happening.
Can you recreate a scene? Shall we?
I can actually, but I don't want to recreate it, because the one that I remember very vividly is Rasputin is fingering this girl, and over the top there's a historian talking about how he had electricity coming from his fingertips. And I was like, what editor put that together? I could have gone my whole life without watching Rasputin finger a girl with a historian over the top being like, he had charisma, electricity coming out of his fingertips.
That editor saw their opportunity
and they took it. Mm-hmm.
That woman, well, good for her.
Yeah. So basically, all of the scenes, because it wasn't entirely focused on the drama, and they had so much time to cover in 6 episodes. They start from Nicholas II becoming Tsar with like flashbacky bits of him and Alexandra getting married, all the way up to Anna Anderson, which I'll get into that in a minute. So they've got hella time to cover in 6 hours. So every scene that they have has to be so perfunctory and to the point that the writing is just the characters' exposition, like telling you what's happening. And then then they'll cut to a historian re-explaining what just happened. And you'd think that having a historian explain what's happening would mean that you don't need the characters to give you context. But what it wrote in The Guardian was as well, because they're giving so much like exposition to the characters, every single line is laced with irony, hindsight, foreshadowing, about what's going to happen in the future. And I was like, I got to episode 3 and I was like, I dare you to have a single scene, like line of dialogue that isn't someone predicting what's going to happen. Like it's like, okay, well, if you all know what's happening, then why the hell what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And this bit in this article says, as if there weren't already too much anachronism and hindsight in a world where the Tsar keeps saying, I am the Tsar. Like, he has to keep like
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah, he has to keep like, everyone keeps saying, you're the Tsar to Nicholas, as if he doesn't bloody know, because they have to keep reminding him he's an autocrat, so that he has all the power, so he can do whatever he likes. And then every now and then he'll be like, I'm the Tsar. It's like, yeah, you don't need to keep telling us.
Previously on.
Yeah. It's not subtle at all. It's like, it's as subtle as a brick to the head.
Right.
And some of the writing within that, it has some really like tries to be funny moments that don't land, and then doesn't try to be funny moments that really do land as jokes. In the first episode, the line that got me immediately, me being like, oh my god, this writing is so bad, is one of the characters talking to Nicholas before he gets crowned, and he's like all nervous and not sure, and because obviously he needs to be told that he's the Tsar.
Yeah,
So
he
this
doesn't
is
know.
this is the, I want to say, the second instance in like the first 20 minutes that another character has to come up to him and remind him that he's the Tsar. And this character says, God chose you, divine bloody right.
Cockney Tsarist Russia.
Yes.
Divine
So,
bloody right.
divine bloody right. And I was like, that is a diabolical line of dialogue, first of all. And there's like a lot of like shits and fucks thrown around just to make it a bit edgy. There's a lot of sex scenes. To say that there's a lot of politics that need to be fit in, they really made the time for the sex scenes. There's one scene.
Were they political sex scenes? Were they like, what do you think of this revolution?
I mean, there's one that's a bit political, but there's one where Alexandra gets absolutely railed on the floor by Nicholas, and they're on like a fur rug, and she's wearing like, you know what you imagine like a wealthy widow whose old husband's just died, and she wears like a black feather gown that she comes down the stairs, and she's like, officers, I don't know what's happened to him. She's like wearing one of those while getting railed on this rug. Yeah. And I was like, this is, why am I watching this?
Just took a step back there.
Yeah.
Me, when does she start astral projecting?
Yeah. So yeah, and like Rasputin like fucks his way across Russia.
Of course. That's just historical accuracy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, Rasputin is the best part of this entire show. Like, do
they do the whole his death sequence?
They do, but that's interestingly the most boring part. Exactly. No, they drop the ball on the most fucky part of his story.
That's like, the best thing about him.
Exactly right. So they like, first of all, Rasputin is northern. So they introduce him in Siberian, and you've got no quarrel with me, and sort of like energy to like gruff northern man, Yorkshire accent. And then you realize that everyone in Siberia has like Yorkshire accents. So their equivalency is that Yorkshire is the Siberia of England, which they do later. Oh my god, I took a screenshot of the bit where the character, like, our historian's describing Siberia, and I was like, oh, so this is what they must think of Yorkshire.
A barren wasteland.
A barren waste. Yeah, it literally, very literally like that. It says, you've got to understand that Rasputin's home village, it's the frontier, herds of reindeer, it's wild. So that's the accent choice that they made there.
They did that.
Yes, was truly impeccable.
I just picture the writers in like Surrey being like, oh yeah, you know what this reminds me of? All those Northmen.
Yeah.
I make Rasputin northern.
So I was like, okay, if they're going to commit to this, then it's the same way that a lot of like TV shows make poor people Cockney.
Yeah,
you know, it's not a good use of it, but I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but
then way later, I realized that all the Bolsheviks and revolutionaries had Russian accents. Explain that to me.
So Rasputin's northern English, and all the
revolutionaries.
All the royal family are Queen's English.
Mm-hmm.
And then the revolutionaries have
Russian accents, yeah.
So like they're speaking English with Russian accents.
Yeah.
Right.
Which to me very much signifies them saying, these are the other.
Yeah.
Don't trust them.
And yet they have the accurate accent.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand it. Yeah. So back to Rasputin. There's another scene that I like fully screamed at because I full on gasped like hand over mouth when I realized he was Northern. There was another scene where they tried to explain how he like went into nature to like fall in love with the Russian landscape, but the budget clearly only had time to film him in this one forest. It's got like a slow-mo sort of edge to the camera as it like follows him like stumbling through a forest, and he like stares up into the trees, and like he like leans on his staff, and it's all in the same place, and then it just hard cuts to him hooking a tree and snapping a bit of bark off and staring at it. I was like, and from that moment on, I was like, that's my Rasputin. He commits, and he really does commit. He, as I say, fucks his way across Russia. They do loads of what I ended up dubbing as Rasputin reveals, where a character or one of the historians would say something like lingering or heavy, as if to be like, there's like, oh, someone needs to arrive, and then they'd like hard cut to Rasputin somewhere, and it was so unsubtle. This is how they ended the first 3 episodes, in the same way. The first episode, Alexandra's going, there must be someone holding Alexei, and then it hard cuts to Rasputin walking through a forest in the snow, and I'm thinking, he's on his way, he's just got to keep fucking his way across Russia to get there. And then later in the second episode, a historian goes, what they needed was a miracle. Another hard cut to Rasputin, heavy footsteps walking into a church. And then at the end of the third episode, Nicholas is on the phone calling, oh God, I can't remember those women that introduced him to Rasputin. And he's like, you said you know someone. We want an introduction. Cut to someone's feet are at the door. It's Rasputin, and that's how they end episode 3. I was like, how many times can you're ending the episode the same way every single time?
Right. What do the people want from Tsarist Russia? They want Rasputin. Tease it.
Yeah. He has loads of orgies. He's like super messy and gross, but also he's like he captures the charisma that I think Rasputin needs to have, that you can understand how he's like that gentle calming figure that makes everyone trust him. So I really I fuck with this Rasputin.
Yeah.
It's just everything else and all his dialogue and everything about it that's bad. So watch it just for Rasputin.
I
frankly
will. The Sean Bean of Tsarist Russia. Like, I'm all over it already.
It's just unfortunate that they fuck his death a bit. It's just a bit boring.
How many ways did someone try to kill him? Is it like 9?
Something stupid. They just went
Poison,
with the
gunshots, stabbing, drowning, ice.
And
what did
they just went with poison and shooting.
That's just not true.
And then the final Rasputin reveal is his frozen body coming out of the river in the next episode. He's like this. It's really quite baller. I was like, if that's a final Rasputin reveal. Oh, actually, no, they dig him up out of his coffin at some point. So that's the final Rasputin reveal. And then after Rasputin dies, I just started getting mad because obviously at that point the fun part's gone because he brings all the weird shit.
The drama.
Yeah.
He was truly mad.
And then it tries to like get into the politics. They have episode 5 is called Revolution, and yet they do such a poor job of explaining it. And then obviously episode 6 is the pew pew shooty time house.
Yeah.
And I was like, to say that they've just spent the first 4 episodes telling us how incompetent a king he was, like an emperor he was, they really have done nothing to explain how this revolution came to be, except like
so much sex.
Yeah, they were like, oh, essentially it ended up being like, oh, there's loads of uprisings, and then they took over and everything was bad. And it's like, and Lenin's here now. No, we won't explain how he got there. Lenin is the big bad. You know, it kind of had that energy to it. And I was like, this is so weird. Like at one point they were like, one of the historians, he must have been quoted out of context, because I was like, surely a historian wouldn't say this. But he said, these revolutionaries weren't the sort of people you'd expect. They were educated. And I was like, what? What are you trying to say? Huh? Excuse me? And then
any revolution ever.
Yeah. And then at the end, when this they said, can you imagine a more sinister name for a house than the House of Special Purpose, which is what they called the house in Ekaterinburg? And I was like, yeah, yes. I can think of a lot of things. The House of Special Purpose could quite frankly mean anything.
Yeah.
And then that
sounds
same,
like a brothel.
Yeah, that same historian said that there's nothing more barbarous in history than the messy slaying of the imperial family in Russia. And I was like, I can think of a few things. That are more barbarous than that. You know, I if you can cast your mind back to a few earlier episodes, you brushed over quite quickly the fact that Nicholas II ordered many pogroms across Russia. You kind of mentioned that in a throwaway line, being like, oh yeah, and Nicholas II was violently anti-Semitic and blamed the Jews for everything.
I was going to say, excuse me, sir, do you recall the Holocaust by any chance?
It was like, but even Nicholas II had done that to. I was like, even you admitted this.
In Russian history, there is more barbarous things.
Yeah,
many more barbarous things.
And it just made me annoyed in the sense that I was like, I'm not against you feeling bad for how they died. Because, you know, it's
Don't
not
paint
nice.
it as history.
It's not a nice thing. Obviously, there is a part of you that's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But at the same time, without the nuance from earlier episodes of being able to like properly understand how they got there, and it is a kind of what goes around comes around sort of thing. And you know, he did drive them there. Essentially, he was behind the wheel of the car the entire time. It just ends up creating this like sort of hero villain thing, which is not what you need for this point of history. You need to have like a really complex look at both sides, so you can do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's lazy.
So it feels unbalanced at the end. So like all the like fucky bits at the beginning, you're just kind of like, oh, but this is where it ends up going.
Yeah,
it's to you.
You obviously had the time and the budget that you could really go into this properly, but you decided to just be like, look at these cool czars, and look, they got murdered.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think they did a really good job with the impact of their death. I think there are slight changes. It might be just from what I remember of what I've been taught about how it went, but I think it's mostly accurate. That bit anyway. The rest of it is wildly inaccurate. There's a reason that like Russia's like, have you fucking seen this trash? Because there's no nuance, there's no like there's nothing interesting about it. It's like watching it as if you knew literally nothing about Russian history
Yeah.
at all. You maybe would want it'd be like an introduction if you were doing it in school, like minus all the sex parts. If you got rid of all the sex scenes, you could just show it in school as like a basic overview.
They've shot themselves in the foot there. You can't even. Who are you going to show it to?
Exactly.
Show it in schools.
I get, I don't.
It can be like Russian history with the side of sex education. There you go. Two birds with one stone.
Yeah, it's just, and then the weirdest part that I found of all was on top of how there was a third perspective to this story. It wasn't just the drama of Nicholas and Alexandra plus the historians. They also had a narrator within the drama side who was from the future in the 1920s, looking back on it, because he was with Anna Anderson, who was the woman that pretended to be or thought she was Anastasia.
Oh,
because he was the and the narrator was the girls' tutor.
Oh.
So they got this third. So there's flashbacks and flash forwards within the drama as well. So as if there wasn't enough changing perspective going on, you've also got this guy in the future, which I didn't understand why we needed, considering that we know that Anna Anderson was not Anastasia. Therefore, not linked to the Romanovs, because they all died. She never met them. That's kind of a separate extra part. I'd understand doing a whole series about her. That would make sense. Or a whole series about one. I don't know why they brought her in at the end, and then they just had some documentary bits going over like what happened after they died. Weird show.
So it's like almost like three people tried to separately make a documentary in 3 rooms, and then they mashed it together with a hammer, and that's what happened.
Yeah, the actors tried their best. Bless them. bless their cotton socks. They gave it a go with what they had.
Well, like Rasputin Sean Bean sounds fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. I will say, I think the woman who played Alexandra was also great because I hated her.
Nice.
And she was that like brand of I'm right and why does no one else listen to me that I think that you need for the Romanovs. And the guy who played Nicholas was like the right level of pathetic as well. So like the vibes were there, but it's like you almost wish that they had like a genuinely good script.
Yeah,
because I could see those actors like actually properly giving it a go.
Alas, why didn't they just dramatize it or just do a documentary? Like,
I don't know. Like, or they didn't even use it to its full potential, because why would you need the historians explaining the context of things if the characters are already doing
why
that?
do the same scene twice?
It's like, now that your father has died, now you must become the Tsar. It's like that level of explaining and his father's lying dead there. It's like, and now you're the Tsar and your uncle's over there and he is
you are the Tsar.
You are the Tsar, so you are the autocrat and you must decide that you must rule Russia. What a crazy show.
Wow, sweetie. You watched all of that.
Yeah.
And I only watched 6 episodes of Buki Magic Thriller.
This was only 6 episodes, to be fair. So we spent the same amount of time.
Fair.
And I do want you to watch this because it's the fucky bits are that fucky.
I want to see Yorkshireman Rasputin.
Yeah.
Rasputin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God speaks through me.
I'm from Siberia.
Back to my village.
Road.
Simple there.
when he gets poisoned. Oh, that's smart. Really does, I.
That's what it's like. He's like, everyone's trying to kill me. Knocks it back.
Oh, bloody hell.
Ugh.
Oh, well, that sounds fun. No, I think equally booky on both on both parts.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. We've got astral projection and we've got some fun Russianness. But yes, there you go. We've gone back to our remit of finding weird TV shows and telling you all about them. Don't go watch Behind Her Eyes, or if you do go watch Behind Her Eyes, just watch the last episode because it's really weird and fun, and you will understand. You genuinely will understand what's going on. That's how useless the first 5 episodes are.
Yeah, and I'd only recommend going to watch The Last Tsars if you already know about Russian history and want something really funny to laugh at.
And maybe want to go see Yorkshire Rasputin.
Yeah, he is the draw. Episodes 1 to 4.
Why?
and then you can just like skip to the end of episode 6 when the pew is happening, and then that's it.
Tidy.
Yeah.
Tidy. But yeah, we'll see you next week. We'll try and find a good TV show to review next week, and then we can chat further. But farewell.
See you soon.